Today I fucked up by accidentally quitting smoking. I guess this is more of a positive fuck up, but still a fuck up. Anyway, I've been smoking, just cigarettes, regularly for a bit over 4 years now. I really like smoking, it relaxes me, clears my head, and I love the taste of different tobaccos. Well, loved. I don't smoke a lot unless I'm out with friends, which as you can guess it's something that's just not happening during this pandemic. As a result, I've spent the last month or so smoking just a couple of cigarettes a day, which really enhanced my sense of smell. Well, a couple of weeks ago, I've had a terrible sore throat, to the point of not even being able to talk. Smoking was out of the question, as it was simply too painful. My cravings were easy to manage, as I already didn't smoke a lot. Fast forward 10 days, I'm feeling alright again and I finally grab a cigarette. I light it up, inhale. And it tastes like absolute shit. It feels like I've licked clean my ashtray, nothing at all as what I'm used to. Smoke itself that's coming from the cigarette has a barely tolerable smell. I just can't stand it. So here I am now, almost a week later. I'd really like to smoke, I loved it so much, but it's just so disgusting I can't bring myself to do it. I've tried, but it's just horrible and the taste just seemed to get worse. I had no plans to stop smoking anytime soon. This was 100% not intended and I'm actually pretty annoyed by it. I guess it's good for my health and everything, but I'm probably one of the only idiots in this world that accidentally quit smoking. This whole thing sounds so stupid. Edit, holy hell, somehow this reached r/all. I'm getting a lot of comments and while I might not be able to reply to all of you, please know that I'm reading them all. With so many people sharing their positive experiences about quitting and showing support, I'm actually quite happy this happened to me now. I might be pissed off today but I'll probably be happy about it in the long run. Thank you. Edit 2, I've literally just received the results of my COVID test. I'm negative. I saw a lot of you guys were worried since altered taste and sore throat can be COVID symptoms, so I thought I'd update on my test results here. No COVID for me, the cigarettes taste bad for real. TL, doctor, had a really bad case of sore throat that forced me to give up cigarettes for 10 days. Now they taste like absolute shit and I'm actually pretty pissed off because I had no intentions of actually quitting. As someone who has not had a cigarette for 10 days and am trying so hard to give up, I wish I was finding it as easy as this. Worked at a bar part-time and picked up a full smoking habit. I stopped working at the bar, then the world got shut down. I can't remember the last time I smoked a cigarette and I love it. Look out for signs of hepatitis A. It's caused by a virus in food and water. One of the first symptoms is an aversion to smoking. This is such a win. You're awesome. I smoked cigarettes for over 20 years and battled to quit. I had a tumor the size of a golf ball cut out of my jaw and still didn't quit. Wounds hadn't even healed before I lit up again. Until I started thinking about it as escaping rather than quitting. Credit to Alan Carr, easy way to stop smoking, never looked back. Enjoy your full lung capacity and functional taste receptors. Good luck with the COVID results and look after yourself. Thank you. I stopped for a full year once, but I did it for the wrong reasons, so I eventually started again. But I remember so clearly the higher lung capacity, improved sense of smell and taste, and also being able to sing whenever I wanted. I'm excited to get all those things back. And congrats to you two for quitting after such a long time. I can't even imagine how hard it must have been. As someone who is trying to quit smoking, this really pisses me off. Today I fucked up by breaking my friend out of jail. For a minute. This is a story of a jailbreak that actually worked. For a minute. This was years ago and I will not tell specifics and I will use fake names, but this is the most epic FU I have ever heard of, and it was me that FU. I was in the military but we were stateside. There was a group of fellow bodies with me. This was the night we all learned what a Jaeger bomb shot was. We had round after round after round after round. The night went by extremely fast and my friend Brian decided he would drive myself and my roommate home to our off-base appointment. We left the bar and it was not long long before we were pulled over. Turns out that a sedan having three 21-year-olds leaving a bar at 2 a.m. near a military base is suspicious. The police officer knew we were all drunk when he got to Brian's car window and we all admitted to it. The police officer gave Brian a breathalyzer test which he promptly failed. The officer handcuffed Brian and put him in the back of the police car. The officer then asked myself and the other passenger, who again was my roommate, if we would like to take a breath test and see if we were below the legal limit to drive Brian's car to our apartment so that it would not be towed and therefore would save Brian the impound charges. We took our breath tests and promptly failed. This is when things begin to get weird. The officer left us with Brian's car with the car keys also. The officer drove off with Brian to take him to the local jail for booking. To this day I don't know why he left us with Brian's keys. From the time the officer pulled us over it had been approximately 20 minutes. My roommate and I had an, oh so bright, idea. Public service announcement: this is a good time to mention that this took place several years ago, at a time when DUIs were only just beginning to become a serious offense and driving under the influence did not hold as serious a punishment as they do today. We were young and very stupid, and I do not condone anyone driving under the influence of any mind-altering substance. In fact, I am extremely happy that none of us hurt anyone that night and that I can talk about this obnoxiousness today. I do not take lightly the danger we put ourselves and others in that night. This idea was followed by several ideas that escalated very quickly. You see, my roommate and I were military police officers. We felt bad that we let our friend drive us home and he got into trouble. With an extreme lack of judgment and against all of our common sense, we decided that we would drive Brian's car back to our apartment. We didn't have far to drive, but this doesn't excuse the absolute stupidity that we were acting upon. At some point between the time we started driving Brian's car and the time we arrived at our apartment, my roommate and I came up with a grand plan of how to get Brian out of jail. This was a multi-staged plan and I will break it down. 1. Get Brian's car back to our apartment. 2. Brush our teeth and put gum in. 3. Shave and get into our military police uniforms. 4. Attach our guard belts to our waists so that we looked like we were on duty. 5. Call my precinct on base and inform the dispatch not to call the jail that Brian was at. Every night my command would call every jail in the area to check for military members so that we could take custody of them. I knew who was working dispatch that night and that person just so happened to owe me a big favor. I made it clear that I would not explain why I was asking dispatch not to call this specific jail. Dispatch agreed not to call. 6. I called the jail Brian was at and told them that I was my command and that I was checking to see if any military members were in their jail. They stated yes and stated Brian's name. I asked if it would be okay if we come and take Brian into custody. They said yes. 7. Which cars? Leave Brian's car at our apartment and drive one of our own to the jail. 8. One last pep talk and walk out the door. We arrive at the jail and it's around 4 a.m. and very quiet. No other cars in the jail parking lot. We go to the jail entrance and ring a buzzer. A corrections officer speaks to us through an intercom system. I speak into the intercom while looking into a camera and I inform the corrections office that we are there to take custody of Brian. They said okay. It took about 25 minutes before we heard anything further, and as you could imagine we were scared out of our minds and it felt like an eternity. It felt like the exact fear you would feel if you were trying to break a friend out of jail. Then without warning a loud buzzer sound goes off. The large thick metal door in front of us slides open and on the other side we see 2 corrections officers. And Brian in handcuffs. I've never personally seen a ghost, but at that moment I knew what a person's face would look like if they ever had seen one. Brian's jaw dropped and his face went extremely flush, ghost white. I greeted the corrections officers and told them I will put my handcuffs on Brian so that they can have theirs back. Before doing so I turned Brian around and gave him a pat down. Swapped the handcuffs and that was it. I had Brian in custody! My roommate and I thanked the corrections officers and we turn and walk away with our hearts beating out of our chest. We are walking across the parking lot to our vehicle when my roommate whispers to me, "Don't get in the car, don't get in the car." At that moment a police officer walks up behind us and looks us dead in the eyes, then asks us, "Aren't you two the passengers of the vehicle I just pulled over tonight?" It was this moment that our hearts stopped and so did our breathing. Like I said, the parking lot was empty when we had arrived. No one inside or outside of the jail had caught on to us. It just so happens that the arresting officer arrived to the jail while we were in the Sally Port waiting for Brian to be released to us. The arresting officer was just sitting there doing paperwork in his patrol car in the jail parking lot as we walked Brian out of the jail and to our car. I'm sure you can guess what happened next. Yup, we all got put in jail. About 8 AM our command actually came and got us. We got back to base and they told me to go home and that they would call me when they needed me and to get my things in order because this was not going to go over well. I did just that and then arrived back at my command 24 hours later, and I did not leave for 45 days and then we were deployed again, so I never got off base again during that stateside stay. I was punished to the fullest extent of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, UCMJ. The military law. I was a disappointment to many people because of this FU. I felt ashamed and I took my punishment. All the while I was the most famous person at my command. I represented what it was to have your fellow military personnel's back 100%. Everyone heard about this attempt to break Brian out of jail and we were practically celebrities. To this day I cannot figure how in the hell I had the stupidity to try and pull this off. I am proud to say that this did not ruin my military career and that I did get to serve out my enlistment and be discharged honorably. Needless to say I have never FU this bad ever again in my life. The military absolutely did not condone this behavior, but in some sort of way we were looked at as the most loyal friends a person could have. Our entire command had camaraderie like never before. It was crazy, insane, and stupid. However, like many other stories from my youthful years in the military, it's funny to look back on, and I am grateful to have had the opportunity to serve with my brother in arms. Even if we did FU sometimes, like breaking someone out of jail. For a minute too long didn't read, my buddy got a DUI, I was drinking with him and in the car when he got arrested. I was a military police officer. 2 hours later I broke him out of jail by impersonating an on-duty MP. One of my many convictions. The officer that arrested my buddy recognized me in the jail parking lot after I had taken custody of my buddy. We both went to jail. I almost ruined my military career, but now many years later I look back in awe of my stupidity and the time I tried to break a friend out of jail. Oh my god, this was awesome. Thanks. When I tell the story it doesn't even feel real. Like who in their right mind would do such a thing? Not sure if it's a real story or the plot of a comedy movie, but I definitely had fun reading it. Am I the only one just taking away that military gets arrested so frequently that someone has to call any jail nearby once a night? As a former MP myself, none of this surprises me lol. Nope. MPs usually got into the most trouble. Always had to make a ton of phone calls if a MP was going to hit the blotter. Saving Private Brian. Today I fucked up by not getting my crotch checked up on time. Obligatory, this didn't happen today. Also too long didn't read. At the end. Context, I am from India. I never exactly received a sex talk from my parents. When I was 14, I had noticed there was a small lump of skin in my scrotum just above my nuts. I was so dumb that I thought that was the formation of a new testicle. I had recently seen a news clippings with a woman who had 3 breasts. So I thought it would be applicable for guys as well. So the dumb me decided that I should wait it off and see the 3rd testicle grow. I also thought that this would be a sign of virility. Fast forward 1.5 years, the lump became bigger and oddly shaped and it would pain a lot sometimes. At that time I had recently read about cancer in school. Now I had convinced myself that the lump was actually a tumor. That started freaking me out a lot. I used masturbate a lot, so I believed that that was the reason this was caused. Since I never talked to my parents about my masturbation habits, I was too shy to talk to my parents about it. The tumor would retract back into my abdomen sometimes. One time when I actually mustered the courage to talk to my parents about it, it had retracted back. They assumed that the pain was being caused because of my testicles descending. So I also ignored it and prayed that the tumor would just go away. A few years went by and I tried to ignore my tumor as much as possible. Once I read an article about cysts, and I believed that that swelling could also be a cyst. Whenever I'd read about a new swelling or tumor, I just believed that that's what I had. When I started college and moved to a dorm, I would try everything possible for people to not see me naked. The tumor had become ugly, but it was of a constant size now. I just assumed that my body was abnormal and I couldn't do anything about it. Fast forward to this year, currently 21, I had to come back to my home because of COVID. One day I was changing my clothes after taking a shower. My brother accidentally walked into me changing my clothes. He saw my crotch and was ridiculously surprised at what that monstrosity was. That was the first time I confessed about my crotch issues to anyone. After having this tumor for so long, I was more ashamed that being an adult, I wasn't able to come clean about a medical issue I was facing. My brother nudged me for a few days and forced me to talk to my parents about this issue. I finally caved in and talked to my father about this. He took me to the doctor the next day. I was nervous that the doctor would be shocked and I would be diagnosed with stage 4 cancer or something. Turns out it was just a hernia. Apparently, as the doctor has speculated, this hernia was caused because my muscles were weak and the gap created when the testes descend didn't seal properly, causing the hernia. I got my surgery scheduled within a few days. I got a laparoscopy to treat my hernia. It's been 1.5 months since my surgery. I've made great recovery since. I've wasted over 6 to 7 years of my life overthinking and living with discomfort because of my hernia. Too long didn't read, I didn't get my hernia checked up on time and ended up having body image issues for almost 5 years.